I seriously start to believe that they were waiting for Beppe to come back from Saudi Arabia to accelerate the entry mercato, or at least to start the entry mercato. 2 defenders, 1 offensive player was the target for Juve for that winter session. If we are reading and believing La Repubblica, the first defender is here. And it is none less than Ronald Araujo. What a player, what a defender. La Repubblica is writing, Juventus, it is a done deal for Ronald Araujo. Also, Barcelona said yes. We'll give you all the details about Araujo Juventus. We'll also speak, of course, about the other big names. Rashford, KOLO MUANI, Zirkzee, Dusan Vlahovic, Douglas Luiz. The last chance for Douglas Luiz in the Derby della Mole. Ciao Juventini of the world. My name is Giuseppe. Welcome back on the channel. I hope you're all doing well. It is Mercato. It is Mercato. Mercato is totally crazy, so that means that this one will be a crazy video. I'm counting on you. It costs you 0 and it's helping me so much to put a maximum of like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because now we start with the entire truth as we speak at the moment about Ronald Araujo with all the latest news. This morning, opening La Repubblica, it was a done deal. Araujo is a new bianconero. And that's great, and that's fantastic. Of course, we will go into detail about is he really the player that we need, but at least we have a defender. Calma. Calma. Calma, calma, calma. I don't know if La Repubblica had sources really close to Barcelona and Juventus that confirmed it, and it is a done deal, but at the moment there is no done deal. So this morning, today, there were indeed some calls, intensified calls between Juve and Barcelona, new contacts, that means that they already had contact to actually close the deal. Araujo to Juventus, but at the moment it's not the case. Araujo that should join, and we always try to use the il condizionale, should join Juventus for a loan on 3 million with an option to buy at 37 million euro. If you're really listening to the latest, they agreed with the player, with the agent, with the entourage. The player wants to join the Bianconeri. The old lady wants that player to reinforce their defense. It's a player that can play in the center of the defense, on the left, on the right. Can also play, if really needed, as a right back, even if we don't really need a player there, because having an Araujo or whatever other center back, Kalulu can possibly take his spot again there on the right side, or we continue to insist on Savona with Kalulu next to that new defender with Gatti on the bench. These are the things that we need to discuss tactically when we know who will join, when we know how many defenders will join and who they will be. Now, pay attention. It's not a done deal yet. According to the really latest rumors, they are saying also that we need to pay attention because Barcelona, they try, of course, to have the most money out of the deal. It's not a done deal yet because a loan, why not? That option at 37, but they would love to put an option that goes and transform himself in an obligation if there are certain apps that were reached for the player. Super important as well, because you know it. If there is absolutely no doubt on the strength of the player, because he's a fantastic player, him and Bremer would be probably in the top 3 best center-backs duo of the world. But of course you need a Bremer that is there, one, which he's not at the moment. You need him healthy and at the level of what he showed. And you need an Araujo that is able to play, because so far this season in 24-25, he played 90 minutes, 1 game only in a Coppa game. He didn't play the latest game in Saudi Arabia. You know that they are also playing there the Super Coppa from Spain. They already won their semi-final. They will go into the final. Looks like the talks will be definite after the final of Supercoppa from Spain. So in the coming days, thinking that he could be there against Torino or in the days after, probably it's too much, too fast. So probably after Supercoppa, when the delegation of the Blaugrana will come back to Spain, to Barcelona, in Catalonia, that's probably the moment where Araujo will say goodbye if an agreement is found. Now, why is Juventus pushing for Araujo? Probably because they understood that it's over for Antonio Silva at the moment. You know that Jorge Mendes went back to Benfica to speak with them to try to unlock the situation. Should have happened yesterday night or this morning. Looks like they came back, like Fabrizio Romano reported, with Benfica that is at the moment still not opening the doors for Antonio Silva to leave in January. So the player is not playing at Benfica, but looks like they don't want to let him go. Or it would be for a really crazy offer, which Juventus cannot allow themselves at the moment. So Antonio Silva further away for January. Araujo extremely close to Juve, but pay attention, like we always say, they could potentially always be a West Ham around the corner. And the West Ham of this situation is Arsenal, that is extremely interested in the player as well. Then how many defenders they want in their team, I have no idea. But after Calafiori, pay attention to the Gunners that really are starting to pay attention to the player and would love to come inside the nearly done deal between Juve and the Blaugrana. So pay attention to them. Is that over? No, because we need two defenders. And if Araujo has a huge big possibility to wear the beautiful black and white stripes of Juve, well, there could be another player that Juventus didn't give up at the moment, and it is Hansko. Juventus will try to wait until the end of this winter mercato to go on the player. Why on the end of the mercato? Because at the end of this mercato, there will be a break in the Eredivisie where they would have played already 4 more games. And that's the moment where Juventus would say it's now or never. Let's go for Hansko all in after securing that first defender. If it's not Hansko, Juventus still have open options like the ones of Danso from Lens. Even if yesterday some people were saying that it was over between Lens, Danso and Juve, there is still an open track there. There is still Kivior from Arsenal. Pay attention, Arsenal is always there. There is Veiga. There are some few players that are there, but probably alternatives and not really the first name that is Hansko that Juventus really want to close. That was for the defenders. Now we can go towards the other things, the strikers, because that's another big topic. Yesterday, Alfredo Pedula actually resumed the situation that was really clear. Juventus is really interested in 2 players since a few days. That is Araujo for the defense and KOLO MUANI for the offensive role. But of course, you need to close the deals, because if you don't close the deals, if the player is not there in La Continassa showing the new number, it's only talk, it's only beautiful talk. But it's true that Juventus is serious in these 2 players, elevating also the target that they had a few weeks ago. Where, do you remember, Giuntoli said clear in front of microphones, we have the priority for a defender. We are not looking for a striker up front, because that striker should be Arkadiusz Milik. No track of Milik, that unfortunately, as you know, we said it last week, had a small injury again. They gave up on Arkadiusz, which is totally normal because they know that they cannot count on him, also not for the second part of the season. So KOLO MUANI is there. Is that over? No, there are the names of Rashford that is still under evaluation from Juve, and Zirkzee that is still in the radars of Juve. Now you'll tell me there are a lot of names, Beppe. How can we do it? Let's start step by step by step. KOLO MUANI. What are we waiting for? Because we are speaking about him since, I believe, the 13th of December here on this channel. Well, apparently, Kvaratskhelia could potentially go to Paris Saint-Germain. Zegrova, that is a player that I love so much, and you all were able to admire him in Champions League, the other way around to Napoli. Even if he's playing on the right and Kvara is playing on the left, that's what they are looking for. You never know. And maybe they go for a left player on loan from Liverpool that we knew really well, that played with the number 22 and then with the number 7. And that's where Juventus is waiting that this can possibly happen so that Juventus can go for a loan for KOLO MUANI. KOLO MUANI has been individuated by Juventus, Giuntoli, Thiago Motta, as a player that can really play as a striker, that can play with Vlahovic, without Vlahovic, can play on the left, can play on the right, like he played with l'Équipe de France. It's a player that is checking all the boxes, except, of course, that he has a huge salary, and not as much as Dusan Vlahovic, of course not, but he has still a huge salary, and he's also a really huge value. Paris Saint-Germain, if they give you an option to buy, they will request you 60 million euro. Is Juventus able to go for KOLO MUANI not only on a dry loan for 6 months, but for a bigger term? That's the huge big question, and this is also why Juventus is still trying to think to make sure that their initial plan works out. And I told you so many times what was the initial plan. Means Dusan Vlahovic leaving in the summer, now already investing in Zirkzee. The money from Dusan Vlahovic will be reinvested in Zirkzee, that will already be a Juventino since 6 months, and then going for Jonathan David. But you never know what can happen with Dusan Vlahovic. Speaking with a lot of people, they continue to tell me Beppe, he should stay until the end of the season, but it's not a promise that we can do at the moment. If the real offer arrives for Dusan Vlahovic, and again, we're speaking about that West Ham from around the corner that is today Arsenal, well, if Arsenal is really pushing for a Dusan Vlahovic, you never know what can happen in that situation. Then it would even make sense that you are obliged to go for both players. Maybe a KOLO MUANI investing the money from Dusan and taking Zirkzee on loan, looking to actually make space for other money in the summer to activate the option to buy. There is still the name of Rashford. Looks like Manchester United is pushing to let him go. They want to have a striker this winter. There are the names, of course, of Gyökeres, the names of Osimhen. I don't know what other names are linked to Manchester United because I'm not supporting them, but looks like they really want to let him go. And one of the clubs that are interested in Rashford are Juve. Why? Because he has been really offered with a lot of strength from the Red Devils to the Bianconeri. Why is that? Well, when I'm thinking about it, if they offer with a lot of strength a player like Rashford to Juve, it's because they are waiting probably for something. What can be that something? What can really be that something of Rashford to Juve offered? Well, looks like they are interested in potentially Douglas Luiz. Douglas Luiz that has half of Premier League that is interesting in him. At the moment, he has no intention to leave Serie A. He doesn't want to leave as a flop. He doesn't want to go to clubs like Fulham that is interested on the player. There are a few clubs, really. A Manchester United would be something where he says, okay, it's an upgrade towards Aston Villa. I'm not speaking about the ranking of the latest years, but I'm speaking in terms of history of the club, emblem of the club, the international appeal of Manchester United. But at the moment, he really wants to stay at Juve. He wants to show that he is a valid player. Juventus would let him go for two things. Only if the player would ask to be sold or loaned out, one. Two, if a mega value is coming for a player. Juventus cannot allow themselves to lose any money for a player that we never saw. I would really say, and I continue to say, that for me, if you let Douglas Luiz go in the winter, that would be really, 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 really bad. I hope that we can see him. And one of the first time that we could potentially see him from the first minute of the game, it's against Torino in the Derby della Mole, because looks like Thiago Motta, after Locatelli not being there, because he's suspended, could potentially give him a chance from the start. And that's the moment where he needs to show us. Otherwise, guys, if he's not playing, also not in the Derby della Mole against Torino, we open a debate of will he stay, will he not stay. Latest news from La Continassa from yesterday. We know it yesterday, Conceição and Vlahovic were training in an isolated way. This morning again, and Dusan Vlahovic and Conceição. Conceição would be out against Torino. Vlahovic, there is still some hope if tomorrow he's able to join his teammates. If not, he will not travel with the team. If he's joining his teammate, he can possibly be there on the bench with Nico Gonzalez that is starting. But Juventus has more than one problem, because not only up front, without Conceição, probably without Vlahovic, but also in the back, where in the last 8 games we conceded 10 goals, which is huge and probably too much. I finish with some news about in a way, linked to Juve. Pavel Nedved is the new sporting director of Al-Shabaab in Saudi Arabia. I'm super happy to see Pavel Nedved coming back in the football world, because an icon like that, especially for Juve, should be there. It made me smile that he has chosen the club Al-Shabaab, that is playing in black and white, and especially if you know that Shabab means youth. Juventus, youth, Al-Shabaab, youth, it's really funny. And then we finish with the really late news, and we continue to stay in Saudi Arabia, this time with Al-Hilal. Al-Hilal that is thinking about Nicolo Barella. They want to go for Nicolo Barella. They will try an offensive. At the moment, the player wants to stay in Serie A with Inter. He wants to take revenge after losing that Supercoppa. But if Al Hilal could go and sign him, well, they could take us a problem in that Serie A, because we know how important Nicolo Barella is for Inter, and seeing him far away from Serie A would make me smile, even if it's something that will be extremely difficult. Ragazzi e ragazze, Juventini and Juventine, I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to put a maximum of like, continue to subscribe to the channel. Grazie, forza, Juve.